We are live. Welcome back to Carnivore Team GB, the live Q&A featuring your favourite carnivores from the UK, including myself, apparently, Phil Escott, Coach Stephen, Ben Hunt, and also Richard, who is not in attendance tonight. He's very busy doing work stuff. Anyway, this is the best place to get your carnivore questions answered for all your meatiest, hottest topics. So I thought I'd just start today by asking, how are you guys doing tonight? What have you been up to this past few days or week?
Well, you know, we're really excited because we got the Red Pill Food Revolution book out, digital bundle, and I'm going to hand over to Ben on that one because it's been amazing. That testimony we had today was incredible. We've had some great ones, but somebody wrote one that was just like, whoa, like you're like Morpheus and Neo, and this is a masterpiece and all sorts. It was really sweet, wasn't it? But
yeah, it was great. We really just need to get that book out to everybody. So if anyone's listening to this either live or whatever, go to thebigfatchallenge.com/book and check it out. Yeah, he said, I don't know how long it took you to write that. It really is the most important book of our lifetime. And that's exactly what Phil and I thought. We're not, yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, you know, we're not just trying to kind of hype this and big it up, but it really is. I mean, it changed what we both do, and set us out onto this mission to spread the word about this and to fight the war against meat as well. So, yeah, it's wonderful. Honestly, you won't regret it. It's $11.99, it's less than £10 in real money, and you get the MP3 audio book, you get it in PDF, you get it in Kindle version, you get it in EPUB version. It's absolutely everything. Yeah, but yeah, listen to the audio version. But he went through that in like 24 hours, Phil, didn't he? He
did, yeah.
On Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know if he read it or listened to it, but yeah, it was a nice one. But yeah. So am I supposed to be seeing this live on my YouTube channel as well? It's still just got a thumbnail and saying live, but
if you click out of it and go back on it, sometimes it has to refresh.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's a weird one. Yeah, that book I do recommend buying it, honestly. The audio version is very pleasant to listen to. I remember sitting there a few months back just at night listening to each chapter. Gives you food for thought, and a lot of the stuff in there I never really considered when it comes to like diet and how our food industry came to place, you know. So how about you, Stephen? How you been the last few days?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, the Big Fat Challenge is very good. I quite like the content, and I've been on as a guest. So I haven't read the Red Pill Revolution yet. Well, I will. I found my blue blockers, but I'm realizing that I might have the wrong color because yours appear to be red and mine are orange. So that would be my question. What have I done wrong there? Look, you know, mine don't appear to, it's funny, Jonathan's got to do that to see what the color is, and this is my problem. It does seem to change the colors, and I can't get used to it. But
well, they look like more of a sort of daylight while using the computer type of one, or driving home from a gig type of glasses. But it's really easy. You just get a blue light. You know, I've got a little blue LED on the V drum amp behind me that the computer goes through as well. It's just a bright blue LED, and you put them on. If you can still see the blue LED, they're no good for the evening. And if you know, if you can't see it, they're working well. Or just call up something blue on the computer and have a look at it. If you can still see it's blue, then they're no good. There's kind of color testing charts, I think, for
okay. I mean, I've got a really easy one because I've got this live on air neon thing behind that my missus got me for my birthday, and the live is in blue and the on air is in orange or something, or purple. So first time I walked in with blue blockers on, I looked at it, I thought, oh, it's broken already. I've only had it a week.
Yeah. So Phil has a link to them on his channel, the ones that he uses. The link's also my channel, and Stephen probably has a recommendation as well. So,
well, I was going to say about my workout program as your plug-in stuff that you're doing, which is just $2.99 a month, and it's got tons of videos and workouts and stuff like that. And it's part of the app. So if you wouldn't mind, I'll put a link in the chat if that's all right. Because I think people are waiting until January, and I think this is bad. So, I mean, this is not the thing you should be doing. And Jonathan, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. Don't give yourself an excuse to not do something. Oh, it's going to be Christmas. We'll start after Christmas. It's so easy to do that. And with Americans, if there are any Americans watching, you know, it's Thanksgiving. I'll start after Thanksgiving. And the thing is, you're always wishing it away. And before you know it, by the time you get to January to do your new you, you know, new year, new you, you've added another 5 pounds, or you've got into some really bad habits, or your sugar addiction's back. So I'm sort of trying to push people to get back into working out now, to give them a buffer. And I think, you know, I'd rather go into Christmas knowing I'm really fit rather than, oh, I've binged for 6 weeks. So basically the idea is it's a program that you just follow every day. There's a video introduction to every single workout, and you get email reminders that you should be working out, and then comes up on your phone and you follow the workout, or you can download it as a PDF. And I think it's a pretty good plan. I used to sell it for 90 quid. And then when I got the app, it's so easy to add it to the app, and you can download it from Google and Apple and all that sort of stuff. It just makes it really easy. So I think for English people, it's about £2.40 a month. So it's worth it just to have the videos telling you why the exercises work and the best way to do it. So if I've got permission, I'll put a link in the chat.
Yes, it's a good place to put your links and things. If you have a service or a product that's relevant to what we're talking about, always plug it in. You know, the reason why I brought you guys together, because I appreciate what all of you do, understand the value of everything you offer. So that's why I'm saying post what you want. If you posted crap, I wouldn't have you on here, obviously. So, but yeah, for was it £3, $3 for a program like that will help you keep accountable with the video library as well. That sounds like a great value proposition. So certainly, yeah.
Thank you. So I'll stick that in the chat in a minute. But yeah, I think it's been a good week. All the things that are going on, it's nice to see people like Monsanto being charged and fined. I think it was 10.5 billion for their glyphosate, which is obviously safe, because you give out 10.5 billion in court, even if you're not proved wrong, really, you know. So I mean, I think it's been a good week for that, actually, that the chickens are coming home to roost. But the problem is these big corporations, and actually I'm speaking to people that know a lot more about this than me, namely Ben and Phil, who have written the book. But it's small change. I mean, 10.5 billion is probably cost effective. That's what I think is frightening. They can afford that. You know, same with the pharmaceutical companies. I think it's literally criminal. Well, it is criminal because it went to court and they lost. So I think that has been quite interesting. And I know that's a little bit off the carnivore topic, but I think we're looking more at health, aren't we? And what's going on and food production. And I don't think we're just talking about eating meat. So that was one of the
I mean, there's plenty of guys out there talking about just eating meat. Let's go further into it. You know, we won't have any meat to eat if we just say, oh, we eat meat. You know, we have to be a bit more upfront about our belief system and the understanding of our food system as well. So, you know, it's a place to talk about all those topics. You know, it's not just, you know, gym stuff or steaks.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just do this quick one here? 40-year carnivore says, I do not wear sunglasses at all. And I absolutely agree with you. Neither do I anymore, but in the daytime. I never wear them in the sun, but I'll wear them in the evening as blue blockers. If I need to have a light up, our house is so dark anyway that I don't need them. But just got some little red bulbs and whatever here and there. But I don't wear them at all in the daytime. And I used to love them. I had a big collection of Oakleys for mountain biking and polarizing ones for going up trees and spotting fish in the water and whatever. And I don't wear any of those anymore. So yeah, not good in the sun, but good in the evening.
Yeah, I still see people like driving their cars wearing sunglasses. I'm like, it's probably the only time of day you'll get any fraction of sunlight at all. You're still wearing something to cover your eyes, where you're going to absorb all that vitamin D and all the UV light. So I'm dumbfounded by it sometimes, but it is actually a legal requirement. If you can't see when you're driving, it's actually a legal requirement to make it so you can see. So you have to have your visor thing down or wear sunglasses.
Yeah, well, I think it was part of me getting very sick. I think, when you see Jack Cruse's work of how the light going into the eyes creates all the sort of melanin and in different parts of the body, and I don't know, the science goes over my head, but I think a lot of that, because I couldn't take the sun anymore. It was also because I was eating a veggie diet, but for 30 odd years, I wore contact lenses and sunglasses pretty much the whole time when I was out. My eyes got so unused to the sun, I'd wear shades to drive on a cloudy day. And I think that had a lot to do with what happened to me and getting very sick. And so I don't do that at all anymore. I got them lasered in 2006, which is also a bad idea, but I think I got away with it. So I don't wear any glasses or contact lenses or anything out in the sun now, and no problem with that light intensity. And I don't know why I ever wore sunglasses. It's weird, isn't it? It just seems odd.
Yeah, they're fiddly to walk around with, honestly. I'm clumsy, so I don't wear glasses, hats, I don't know, much jewelry, watches. I break everything, so it's another thing to break for me, so I just don't bother. Yeah, I'm just going to put on the screen now Stephen's program. So if you actually go onto the live chat, you'll see the link for it there. It's on his website, The Carnivore Experience. And he'll have a list of his products, different things on there, and services and all sorts. So check that out. We're joined with Lambs as well. And also Tom, thank you both for joining. We've got one question, but I'm just going to get to this point because it's on topic. So Matthew said, my family still believe in sun cream as it's vital to protect from sunburn. I was told the ingredients in sun cream is toxic. It goes in one ear and out of the other. I used to battle this with everyone.
I have a vision of Matthew squirting sun cream in one ear and it coming out the other of his family. Yeah, it's not just the toxic stuff, though, is it? It's basically that sun cream will block the rays that tell you you've had enough sun and let through the rays that you really don't want too much of. We burn, we go pink. It doesn't do any harm. I mean, obviously not a big blistery burn, but if you go a bit pink and whatever and a little bit sore, it's not a problem. It isn't a bother. And just go out in the sun and go to your capacity, and then just put a hat on and a shirt or go in the shade. It's we never had sun cream, and there wasn't skin cancers. All these skin cancers have come up since all this use of sunscreen, sunglasses, seed oils. Obviously, it's all nonsense.
Yeah, I think in the initial.
Massive,
sorry.
People who come off seed oils just report they don't burn. I can't remember the last time I got any kind of sunburn. Having said that, in mid-November, I can't really remember the last time the sun was out either. So, yeah. Andrew's on a few seed oil sunburners. Yeah.
Hello, Andrew.
Oh, it's Andrew. Look at that. Yeah, if it's Team GB, it's silly talking about the sun, isn't it, really? I think it was out 2019. I think, anyway, yeah, I wanted to say about that I used to be a big believer in the sun cream, and this was before low carb. I researched skin cancer. Did you know that over 75% of skin cancers appear on skin that is not exposed to the sun? It's more often in the areas where the sun doesn't shine, literally. So I thought that was quite an interesting stat. And then when I came over to this way of eating, to the light side, I realised that the seed oils were definitely causing a problem, and I was right. It was a gut feeling to not wear sun cream, to not use it. And I mean, I haven't used it for 10 years, and I'm always out in the sun. And this thing about sun damage and it's going to age me and stuff, since I've been not doing that and going out in the sun, I definitely look younger. So my skin is in tip-top shape, really.
Yeah, I get out there as bare as humanly possible if the sun's out, you know, providing it's not, you're not going to freeze my nuts off. Yeah, I remember when, you know, when the Fauci flu came about. I remember it's 2020 and the summers were really hot. Do you remember, like, that few months of summer was really hot? So I was working in the vegan health food shop. And I think the only reason why I didn't catch it, bear in mind I was, you know, we can argue about the terrain theory versus, you know, the other theories, but, you know, if we sort of look at the idea that I was around lots of different people that were probably quite ill, lots of elderly people that probably had a high infectious rate, if that could be measured. I didn't catch it at that point, but when I was going to and from work and I was going out at lunchtime, it's really hot, really sunny. I was always in front of the sun, so any moment I could get in the sun, I was getting my vitamin D topped up, my immune system was boosted. I think that's one of the main things we should have. Well, the powers that be should have changed. They should have looked at people's vitamin D status. That would have definitely enhanced people's immune function. But yeah, that's a topic for another day, I think.
Yeah, and what did the news tell us to do? Stay indoors, cover your face to restrict the flow of fresh air. You know, stay and eat crap.
Don't go for a run down the beach on your own.
Exactly.
God forbid. All right, we got a question from Andy here, so I'm going to chuck it on the screen and read it. And he asked, "What do you consider to be the optimum ratio of protein to fat, and why?" Well, it depends which one of us you ask. Should we start with Stephen this time?
I'll unmute myself then. Although I talk more sense when I'm muted, by the way. So yeah, firstly, it does depend on your goals. Secondly, it depends on where you are in your journey right now. So I'm giving you all the vague answers because there's no right answer. That's the point. You know, a 6'4" giant like Sean Baker is going to eat a lot more protein because he's big and he's training and he's athletic. And no disrespect, he's going to have a different thing to many people that are watching. It's really as simple as that. Some people need more fats because maybe the last 20 years they've been depleted of fats because they've been on a low fat diet or calorie restriction, and their thyroid and other hormones are crying out for fat. But let's really make it sort of like starting point. If you look at a ribeye, you look at an egg, it's pretty much 1-to-1 protein to fat, unless you use the C word. Sorry to use the C word, but if you look at calories, then it's about 66, very vague, 66% fat, 33% protein, which is a good ratio. Because it's in nature, it's probably going to be pretty good. And if you stick to whole foods and you're metabolically very healthy and you haven't had all those terrible calorie restricted low fat diets in the past, it's probably going to keep you in good stead. And I think if you're thinking of starting out on carnivore, that's a good starting point. So 1-to-1 by weight, or 66, 33, something like that, fats to protein. Now, there was a big thing about 2-3 years ago where everyone was adding sticks of butter and eating lots more fat. And that caused huge amounts of problems for a lot of people and resolved a lot of issues for a lot of people. Now, the people that had resolved issues, and this is not humble bragging, I've had about 500 clients. So it's a reasonable sample. And the ones that did well on it had that background I just mentioned: vegan, vegetarian, low fat, calorie restricted, normally female, normally thyroid issues. And your thyroid is capable of storing between 50 to 90 days of hormones, and it needs fats. It needs what's coming in from your food, because if you're eating, a low fat diet, you're not getting it. So they really did well. But other people who were finding problems with their weight management or their body composition, their fat basically on their body, some of them found it was the worst thing they ever did. And then we were going back to lean. Well, I would say lean, actually back to what I just said, like 1-to-1, just a ribeye and an egg, don't put some butter on. So what the science says and what happens in the real world, sadly, the disconnect is across the board, isn't just in this one particular area. is very different. So there's no right or wrong answer, but I do think sticking to pretty much 1-to-1 by weight is a good thing, not adding fat, unless you feel you have a reason to do that. For instance, if your thyroid shot and stuff like that. Possibly if you have joint pains, again, because your synovial fluid and all your connective tissues are going to love you for having more fat in your diet for a bit. But also, once you've found a formula that you think is working for you, that doesn't mean you switch off from learning and looking and tracking and looking in the mirror and seeing how you're getting on, because your body will adapt and you will lose body fat and you will gain muscle and you will get more active, and it's going to be a different kettle of fish every single time once things change. So that's it, basically. I think, I've rabbited on too much, feels asleep already. So that's what I would say. Just keep it simple, really.
Phil, what would you do? I mean, Stephen touched on some really good points. Like a 1-to-1 might be a good place to start, but obviously there's individualism to it. So, what experience have you had, Phil, with your sample clientele?
Yeah, I mean, just before I answer that, Matthew said here, have any of you seen Dr. Sean Baker eating a 3.8-pound tomahawk steak in 9 minutes? Surely that's not healthy to eat that much food in one sitting, regardless if it's healthy red meat. Yeah, well, we've seen him do it live, actually, because we had dinner with him a while ago at the Sheffield conference, and he ate an enormous great tomahawk steak. And I said to him, have you had enough there, mate? Have you had enough to eat? He said, I could do another one. And he probably could. I think it's absolutely fine for him if he's not.
Wasn't it? It's 35-ounce, 40-ounce porterhouse, wasn't it? I think even.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, porterhouse. That's it. But it was, everybody else who as well. Some of the guys decided to order them and try and struggle through them, and they were having trouble. And Sean just kind of inhaled it. But I think it's absolutely fine if you're that big and you're that hungry and you need it. Your body will tell you what you need. I think Anthony's right, where eat meat until you don't want another bite, and you're not, it doesn't taste nice anymore, and that's as simple as that. He didn't seem like he was struggling to me. As for the fat ratios, I mean, I suppose I help people out who are pretty sick and they've got autoimmunity. That's mostly the people who come to me who have some sort of an autoimmune issue. And I think that the Zofia, our friend Zofia at Paleomedicina in Hungary, she works on a strict sort of ratio, which is, the calorie thing is difficult to work out really, and then the grams thing, which would be, as far as they're concerned, 35 grams of fat to 100 grams of lean meat. But I think the easiest thing is just on the plate. If you're healing the gut, their ratio is 1/3 fat to 2/3 lean meat, not protein to fat, because lean meat also has some fat in it, obviously, but 1/3 fat visible. So if you've got something like a really fatty lamb chop, that's probably spot on. Very few ribeyes have got enough, so you put some more tallow on or something like that. The point of this is that, there's a lot of stuff in the fats for healing the gut, and it's the least reactive to somebody with a leaky gut. So when you're working out the amount of protein to take, you want to be really filling up on fats while you're healing the gut. Because also, when the gut's leaky, even the good proteins from, say, really good lamb and beef can go through and cause a reaction. They won't be harming the gut, but the sort of wheat proteins and whatever, but they will be going through and causing some reaction. So that's why the PKD or Paleolithic ketogenic diet is very high fat. And I find, times when I've had flares, and there's nothing like it. It's night and day compared to an ordinary carnivore diet if you're healing the gut. And they have such good success at Paleomedicina with all of these autoimmune conditions. And that's what I find. Unless somebody's sort of got a gallbladder full of stones or some bile production issue, then it's absolutely fine. Yeah,
just on that subject as well, Rob Sivers has got a video where he talks about these things. And I remember one of the things that he mentioned is that as you are becoming fat adapted over the first few weeks, that you probably want to have a higher fat ratio and then dial it down. But my approach would generally be to go by taste, unless you have a specific fat burning goal, or like Phil says, you've got an autoimmune condition or something. Can I just weigh in on the Sean eating a monster steak thing as well? It is actually entirely appropriate for a large carnivore to wolf down their food, and then sometimes not to eat for 2 or 3 days. Right? If you see actually how a dog eats, if I put down food for my cats or my dogs, if I put down meat, they will inhale it, and then they'll go and sleep for a while. Right? And that is normal. There are also stories about Australian Aborigines in the bush who might go days without food, but as soon as food's there, they don't sit there and pick at it like Romans, lying down. So they absolutely fill their faces, and they will eat as much as they can until their stomachs distend and stick out, and then they'll go days without food again, which does make sense. If you've got to make the most of your meat of your kill when it's fresh, you want to get as much in your stomach as possible. And that is actually the carnivore and hyperpredator pattern. You get the food in your body while it's there, and then you go for a lie down or wait until the next kill. So
yeah, Ben's right. Sorry, go on. Ben's right on the go according to taste, I think, because I mean fatty meat tastes really much better than lean meat anyway. If you're just eating meat, if you're eating lean meat, if you're just eating meat, if you're eating just lean meat, it's not going to be very tasty, and so you're going to be wanting fattier cuts. But it depends completely. It was interesting actually, because when Sean was speaking at that conference, I was actually sitting next to Zofia. And we were talking about this, and I was saying, what do you reckon to eating this enormous amounts of meat? She just went, well, it's completely different goals, isn't it? It's absolutely fine what he's doing, but it's different goals. You don't want to sort of, if you've got raging rheumatoid arthritis, you don't want to be trying to keep up with Sean. Is it where is it? Blah, blah, blah. We put this lamb thing up in the comments here. Fractal Beans, considering paleo-medicinal ratio, the best thing on the UK market is the Sainsbury's rolled lamb breast. Fat to protein ratio is 4:1. Felt great on it. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. But the thing is, you can't always get stuff like that, or you want to change of meat or something like that. So just having a whole load of tallow on hand, so you can balance up those ratios, whatever it is you buy, is always useful, rather than always looking around for the meat with exactly the right ratio of fat to protein, because it's rare these days, isn't it? Because they trim it all off, because as everybody knows, it causes heart disease. So yeah, they just trim it off and throw it away.
Yeah, I'm a bit kind of in the mind of what Stephen says. So assuming I knew nothing about someone, I'd probably think it'd land somewhere about 1-to-1 in terms of protein to fat grams. So for example, like 150 protein, 150 fat. What I always do with clients I have is I work out what they're doing first, then I gravitate towards what I think is about right based on my experience. Then obviously listen to their subjective markers and how they feel, and the weight on the scale, whatever they're trying to achieve, put health issue into remission. Then I gravitate towards a certain direction. I think the key point is to get the protein amount set first, because if you undershoot that or overshoot that, people tend to have a bit of an issue in that we can't heavily store massive amounts of amino acids, apart from in muscle tissue and repair processes. But we have, if we're talking about calories again, perhaps 100,000 calories worth of fat on our body to store. And all fat we eat is stored before it gets used. So you've got to think of that as well. There is a buffer. Our body has a buffer for fat, but not so much for protein. But yeah, it's very individual. I don't think there is a right answer. I tend to notice women tend to do better in terms of ratio, having a bit more fat than protein. But it's not like double, it's like maybe 10-20% more, maybe, if we're talking about the ratio. I've made a good video, I think, about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and it was called "The Carnivore Diet Has Gone to SHIT." And I knew that was a good way to get the video out there, because the information, I believe, was solid. But if I just made a video saying, oh, what macro ratio you should focus on, people wouldn't have clicked on it. And that video got a very good response from people, and they found it quite helpful. And basically, what I said in that video is your body doesn't know a ratio; it knows a gram amount. You know, a mass amount of food is going in your body, or it's not. Your body has to deal with that at that moment in time. So I've met people before say, "Oh, I eat." Well, there's a few times actually, like 1-to-1. And I'm like, "Okay, what 1-to-1 of what?" And it's like, "Oh, 350 protein, 350 fat." And they tell me they're a 5'6" guy that sits at home all day and sometimes goes to the gym. Well, that's a lot of food. Then he'll tell me his weight and his body fat. And I'm like, if your goal is to drop fat, that's the first place I'd look, just reducing the overall food content. So there's a lot of individual ways to go about it, I think.
What about the form of the fat as well? Because I mean, one thing we've noticed in for like women in middle age in particular can sometimes do very well with meat fat, but you start supplementing that with butter, and that's turning into body fat a lot quicker. So
that's a good question.
Cutting out the dairy source can be helpful if it's body fat burning is your goal.
Well, little to people know, saturated fats, so pure saturated fat, i.e. lard, tallow, that's going to be, if you're looking at calories again, it's a very flawed system. I'm going to explain why. 5.5 calories per gram of saturated fat, saturated animal fat. Now, if you compare that to, of course, butter is mostly saturated fat, yes, but there are some unsaturated in it. So they're going to have more units of energy in that food, because polyunsaturated fats about 9.5 calories, something like that. Some even 10. So yeah, it's partly that. It could also be some sort of gut irritation. It could also be, maybe the lactose just cycling through them and they're not oxidizing it. They're not using it for energy. I don't know. But yeah, I do notice that a little bit as well. Women tend to have to be a bit stricter with things to get the right result. Bit more focused on animal fat. I think men are a bit more resilient, a bit more hardy to eating different foods. I seem to have noticed. Yeah.
Do you remember that old sort of, I don't know what, it's not a nursery rhyme, whatever it is. Jack Sprat could eat no fat and his wife could eat no lean. And so between the two of them, they licked the platter clean. That just occurred to me. And I thought, I wonder if that came about, all those years ago, because they felt that women sort of needed a bit of a higher fat ratio or something. Interesting. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to touch on this bit and let Stephen have a go at it. But I think if he can eat it that fast, then he should. If he's stuffing himself to the point where he's choking on it, he's not enjoying it. Well, maybe not. But if that's what he does, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I take a bit longer to eat my meals nowadays. I'm not in any real rush to gain massive amounts of weight. So hitting that satiety point for me doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if I do it now or 20 minutes later. I just pick at food. But I do eat 4 square meals a lot of the time. If I'm trying to lose body fat, maybe a bit less sometimes. It does depend on what we're trying to achieve and how I feel. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it if he does it and it still works. So that's probably my 2 cents. Now, what do you think, Stephen?
Well, I think we've covered the topic. I mean, to be honest, if you're eating something and it stops tasting nice and you don't fancy it anymore, then you're full. Sorry, after that very long answer there, Jonathan, to not really add much, but I just feel weighing stuff is just not natural. It's counterintuitive to me. I did it when I did my bodybuilding show, but I know now with the way I eat, I could have done that without weighing it, because you just know. And I know Phil was talking about that nursery rhyme there. All these sort of things have been known for hundreds and hundreds of years. And, and when you say eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. I know that sounds very glib, but in the end, I do think that's very good advice. Just looking at your plate. I mean, everything is designed to get you used to a certain way. You said about a square meal there. I'm sorry to be nerdy here, but a square meal comes from the naval procedures where you would have a square bit of wood, and that was your square meal. Now, and actually, to make sure you had the right amount of food, they had a thing round the edge called a fiddle, which is a piece of wood, and your food was not allowed to touch the fiddle. And this is where you're on the fiddle came from. So if you was a sailor and you went up and the cook gave you more food than you should have, oh, he's on the fiddle. Look at him. He's on the fiddle. And, this sort of regulating your food is just, sorry to use this word, but it's a control. If you need more food, you should eat more food. But when it's food that's appropriate, the proper human diet, you don't crave constantly. I know we talked about Sean there inhaling his steak and stuff, but I mean, I can eat a ton of food some days, and other days not at all. I mean, I've just had some roast beef because I'm British, obviously, Team GB. We've got to have the roast beef. Couple of slices, I was done, which surprised me. It really did surprise me. Now I'm talking about it, I'm thinking, yeah, that's probably not enough for my needs. If you look at it from, I went training this morning, did a bit of sprinting, I moved 2 ton of wood and all this sort of stuff. But I'm not hungry. Whereas yesterday, I hate the word starving because that's not really true, but I really was keen to eat a lot of food yesterday. So yeah, I think just go back to basics. Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. And I think if you don't know what full feels like, just wait until you don't fancy anymore. But the fatty meat, I mean, you were talking about that from one of the supermarkets. The ratio there are 4-1. I mean, lamb is fatty. I mean, I love fatty meat, and some days I crave it. But I'm assuming that's because I need it for a particular reason. Other days I really want a ribeye. 2 days ago, my wife bought a big chicken, and I didn't fancy it at all because I think it's too lean for me. But it was beautiful. It really was beautiful. So terrible answer because I'm just being real. I think it's down to what you fancy. Stopping when you don't fancy it anymore. Really, that simple.
On that subject, it reminds me of my old mate Dave, who was actually a dance instructor. And when we went out for a curry, he would get his curry already there, and he would dive in and absolutely stuff his face as quick as he could, because he knew that after about 15 minutes, the brain would start, he'd get the leptin going around, and his appetite would wane. So he wanted to enjoy as much curry as he could before the satiation kicked in. But that I think that's a very different situation to what we're talking about.
Yeah, the way I work with anyone that's trying to change their body composition, it's usually someone that's trying to go from A to B, but they don't know what they're doing right now. So having that tracking element is quite helpful. My end point for everyone I work with is to not have that need. The end point is to go by hunger signals, perhaps gravitate a bit towards your goal. If you know that typically you stand as a male about 15% body fat, perhaps you want to be a bit less, you have to just eat a bit leaner. If that's your goal, your body fat set point is 15%, but you want something else, you'll have to just be a bit hungry all the time. That's just the way it works. But it does seem to be an amount for a lot of people, where people hover, I'm sure you guys have known in your years of experience, your weight tends to stay about the same sort of amount, assuming you're healthy. Your body just stays there. Sometimes you're a bit hungry, like Stephen said, sometimes not. So I get it all the time now. So I have my macro guideline, my goal. I don't always hit it. Sometimes a bit over, sometimes quite a lot under. I just know what roughly I need to maintain my weight, if that's my goal. So yeah, we're going to get to the next question. We got one from Low Carb So Simple. Thank you for the super chat. I think that's on my channel. I'm not sure, but if it is, excellent. Your thoughts on egg white protein, how oxidized it is. Is it more harmful than beneficial? I'm wondering about the manufacturing process and storage if it gets oxidized. My quick answer would be no, it's not oxidized. The reason why I say it is because you'd know it was if you tasted it and it was foul. I would argue that a food such as egg white, which can be quite difficult for a lot of people to digest, at least if it's raw, would actually be better or more digestible if it was processed in some way. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Personally, I think it tastes rank, so I don't have it. I prefer whey protein. You can even get beef protein out there. So, but If you're using it as an ingredient to make a cake or something, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, there's other proteins out there more beneficial. But what do you guys think? Either of you guys?
I wanna know about your cake recipes, Jonathan. I want to talk all about cake from now on.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't like egg white. Never have. It's rubbery, nasty stuff. And when I was a kid, I always used to think, how can it have one shell, have the most disgusting thing in the world and the most delicious thing in the world, which is the egg yolk? And of course, then they're saying, you know, that the egg yolks are dangerous and only eat the whites. So obviously that was nonsense for all those years. But I come at it from the side of autoimmunity, where people have a lot of trouble with the egg yolks. Why? I hear various reasons why. There's certain things in there that can be inflammatory. So can the yolks if somebody's very sensitive, but after a while you can tend to reintroduce those. I don't get on with them very well. They tend to give me heartburn, but every now and again, I really, really crave egg yolks, and then I'll have like 12 on some burgers or something in the morning. But then I might not eat any for another month or two. But if I really crave them, my body seems to deal with them absolutely fine. But then if it doesn't crave them and I think, oh, I'll just have some eggs, I'll get heartburn. It's the only thing that gives me heartburn these days. Whereas I used to live on antacids and whatever when I ate all the plants. But eggs always slightly did it, even worse, you know. But there we go. I think they can be a problem for people who have a leaky gut and they're sensitive. They've got some kind of inflammation. And so I just stick to the yolks anyway. They taste much nicer and there's far more nutrients in them.
Can I play devil's advocate for people that are watching? Yeah, I mean, the reason for the egg whites, I mean, from the bodybuilding part of it, is it's got a beautiful amino acid profile, which is why I used to get the egg white omelettes. I know it was also because it was low fat, but you know that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the egg white protein. So the amino acid profile is very good. Whether it is going to be oxidized is very doubtful, because all it does is get pasteurized and then it gets dried. So it's not really being exposed to things like, you know, air and heat and light and all that sort of stuff over a period of time. It's and I agree with what Phil just said. There are some people that just can't tolerate egg whites, but if you can tolerate it, or you can't tolerate, you know, casein, or there is other, or soy, for instance, you know, it's a good source of protein to try. But I would say about 50% of you are not going to thrive on it and not going to like it. So you can't throw it out completely from what we're saying, but and definitely for the amino acids, it is good. So if you try it and you do really well on it, then you know you're ticking your boo, aren't you? And you could use it in shakes, not necessarily cakes, and do yourself some smoothies. You know, protein shakes pretty good. So I think it's not the worst thing in the world, but and I'm going to say a really bad thing now. If you want eggs, have eggs. You know. I think that's the best thing. You know, the old Rocky movie where before he goes training, he just sticks 6 eggs in a blender and drinks them like that. I mean, I've done that. Didn't look like him, but, you know, I thought I was going to get to look like him because I was doing that. And it's not as bad as it feels, or it seems, I should say. So, yeah, I think it's got a place for some people, but I do think there's better alternatives. And I do think be careful with the dosage, because you could really react badly to it.
Yeah, eggs, you know, egg whites are all right if they're in scrambled eggs. Now, if you sort of get like 6 eggs, tip away about 3 of the whites, and then do it with a ton of butter, that's really nice. It's just a wobbly egg white. Now, the concept of an egg white omelette, I mean, explain that to me. I mean, surely it's just egg whites. Because it's like you just
yeah. I mean that was a big thing in the 80s and 90s. That's why I mentioned.
I know. Ridiculous. I never understood it, because an omelette is where you whip it all up and then it goes, you know. But an egg white omelette is just egg whites, right? Whatever you do to it, bizarre.
Basically, all the good bits are taken out.
You know, one time we were coming back from some holiday somewhere, Detta and I, and we we stopped for something to eat, and we were hungry because there was nothing on the plane that was edible at all. And so we saw this cafe at the airport, and they had egg white omelettes on the menu. So we said to them, "Hey, listen, can we have a load of egg yolks? You know, you throw away all the egg yolks. Can we have all the egg yolks? You know, with some bacon or something?" They said, "Oh, we just throw them away." It's like crazy. They made the egg white omelettes. Really bizarre. There we go.
Yeah, so Tilly, she's like 6.5 years old now. She will only eat egg whites, which I think is really weird. But you can't put egg in anything. Like, she knows. So that tells me maybe she has some kind of genetic thing where she can't deal with the sulfur. Because I know to certain foods she just won't touch. Like, she won't touch anything spicy. Fine, fair enough. Anything sulfurous tasting sort of thing. So the egg yolk, certainly not. But she'll eat egg white with a bit of sugar-free ketchup sometimes. So it's weird. Some people have quite unusual aversions, which I've come across more and more now. I'm dealing with a few more people online which have, like, I won't eat cheese, I won't eat egg, I won't drink milk, you know, or I've had some pretty weird ones, actually. Like, I don't eat beef. So, you know, but I think sometimes people do get that initially. And I think we've got a question linked around that at some point in the chat, if I can find it. Maybe not, I don't know. Oh, kind of, yeah. So Carl asked, I'm 2 months into carnivore. Some days I'm struggling to eat. Average daily food intake is 4 to 6 eggs, 1 beef patty, 2 bacon, 1 steak. Is this enough food? 33-year-old male, 6 foot, 85 kilos. What do you guys think? I'll first quickly say, how big is a beef patty? How big is a steak? I get a lot of intake forms from clients, and they'll say, "Oh, I eat this each day, so I eat a handful of eggs." I'm like, "How many eggs do you eat?" A handful, it doesn't tell me much about how much you eat. Sometimes a bit of extra information is quite useful, but we'll just say it's the average supermarket steak you can get, which is, say, 200 half a pound.
I wouldn't even go that sophisticated, Jonathan. I'd just say, Are you hungry?
Yeah.
If you're hungry, then eat more.
Yeah, he's 6 foot, 85 kilos. So I think that's probably relatively lean for a gentleman, I think. So,
yeah.
I mean, if that's what your body's saying that's all you need, then the chances are that's all you really need. Now, if your weight starts to drop and you become emaciated, or maybe there's something else going on that you haven't diagnosed. Maybe something is wrong with your liver. Perhaps you're not pumping out enough bile acid or something, you know. A lot of things to uncover, but have either of you guys have this sort of experience with people?
Yeah, but I just think it looked like enough food to me, you know. And if you go and train hard and you want some more food, that'd be quite a high amount of food for me. But you know, I'm 5'10" and lighter than that. But yeah, it looks fine to me. I just got to read this out because I think it's so funny. Conspiracy pundit: if I only eat eggs and dairy and no plants, will I get thrown out of the vegetarian society? I think that's brilliant. Well done. Great comment.
It'd be a bad time to tell my vegetarian society joke, wouldn't it?
Go for it.
Well, about this girl who claimed that we'd previously had a conversation at the Vegetarian Society, but I've never met her before.
Previously, I don't get it.
I never met her before.
Oh, God. Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Right, gotcha.
I've got to go, so I shall.
Yeah, sure.
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Yeah, the joke must have offended Stephen.
No, it's my dog Rupert. You see, I'm on my own, and he wants to go to bed. Basically, so he rules the roost. So for the last 10 minutes, if people have been looking while I'm looking down there, he's basically saying, "I want to get into my bed and have a kip." So I shall say good evening and see you soon.
All right,
thanks for joining. See ya.
See you later.
No
Phil, this question about going out for an Indian meal with chicken korma and lamb korma with no sides would be a good choice. You've got more experience than any of us about going out for Indian meals and trying to make them as close to carnivore as possible. I think that one's right up your street.
Yeah, well, I don't think any of it's ideal because I'll tell you what I do. And there's only one thing really, but then it's still got spices on it. But I just get a whole load of lamb chops. Often they do lamb chops, and it's still got a spicy coating on it a little bit, but that's it. A load of lamb chops does me. If I'm not feeling quite so strict, I might have a tandoori mixed grill. But then you've got whatever they put in those lamb kebabs. You got chicken, which isn't ideal. And then if I'm really feeling like I want some actual Indian experience, I might get a butter chicken. But I don't actually. I'll get is a what do you call it? A tandoori mixed grill and a butter chicken, because they always have way too much sauce and not enough chicken. And so
the thing that worries me about those tandoori mixed grills is that it's all coloured with this just bright pink food colouring, isn't it? That's not proper spices.
I know. It's a minefield in there. It is. It's not ideal food, but if I'm feeling strict, and it'll be just a whole load of those lamb chops, and that's the best for me because it's actually meat that looks like meat. It's not mixed with anything. All you're dealing with is the coating, not a whole load of onions and whatever that they put into the lamb kebab things, and also those sauces. I mean, they don't hurt me or anything, but it's probably the only time I'll fart. And that's that's not without any of the rice, without any of the bread. If I have a bit of that sauce, it tends to set my arse off. Nothing like when it was just a constant howling gale when I was vegan and vegetarian, but it just the odd fart, which is kind of weird as carnivore. You don't really do that, but I don't know. Stephen says chicken korma is a good choice. It depends. The problem is with those sauces, the main problem is it's all seed oils. Quite a lot of the time, they just cook it in vegetable oil, and that's the problem. And the only way you're going to get around that is to just get one of their just a load of lamb chops or something that come out the oven.
Yeah, and unless you find out in advance that they make their curries with ghee.
Yeah, it's really rare. I mean, there's this wonderful Indian buffet in Manchester called Nawab, and all the Indian families go there. They got hundreds of different curries, loads of stuff. You can pile your plate up with meat, but then you look at even on the placemats, it proudly declares that all of our food is cooked in vegetable oil. I told it's heart healthy. I mean, all this stuff traditionally in India was cooked in ghee, and it should be, but it's not anymore, and so we just don't go there anymore. It's a shame.
Yeah, we certainly would look at Indian folk for people as being like the pinnacle of international health status. And they've got some of the worst rates of diabetes going around, heart disease. So I honestly don't know. Like Phil kind of said, like I'd go for something if they use ghee. If not, you're looking at some sort of tandoori char grill skewer thing. Sometimes you'll get like I think it's called like a chicken chat puree or something. So you've got little chicken pieces. It'll have like a sauce around it, but it's not coated. You just eat around the onions and stuff. That they'll do that as a starter usually. So sometimes I'll go to a restaurant if I know it's going to be absolute filth, and say there's one thing on the restaurant which I know might be safe. So it might just be I don't know, some fried wings or something. Without the coating, just a bit of barbecue sauce, like a glaze. That's not going to be too bad for me. But then if I think, you have chicken nuggets, that's taking it the next level up. You're trying to find like whole cuts of meat. That's the way I'd probably approach it. But I do like a chicken korma, must admit. So.
I tell you what I forgot also is the tandoori king prawns. I mean, you end up with a really big restaurant bill with a great big pile of tandoori king prawns and lamb chops. But that's a great surf and turf Indian style. That's good.
Yeah, good shout. We've got a question here about the book that you guys have proudly produced. What troubles are you having with getting the book printed? I don't know. I can't answer that. What do you guys think?
I'm not sure we can even answer it. I think it gets a bit political. There's been some very weird things that have happened over the the past few months. It's really complicated, and the printing was only actually organized for the States through BookBaby, and it got pushed down in the queue for various reasons. And so we'll sort it. We'll get it out on a print on demand thing at some point. But you really don't want to hear the story of how that's happened. It's all kind of strange what's happened. Lots of weird delays.
It's all come from the fact that we were part of a larger group before, and when we brought out the first Red Pill book. But then that group is now split in half and disbanded. And it's really not that interesting a story anyway. So we won't.
Not fair. Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, my book won't come out for another, I want to say about a month. I'd like to get it done sooner. I've been procrastinating for the last 2 months to get it finished. I'm at the point where I've got 95% of it all there. I just need to take some photos and put it together, basically.
Well, you know what they say about projects like this. The first 90% of the project takes 90% of the time, and the last 10% takes the other 90% of the time.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I've got a few ebooks out now. I think I've got 2 out already. It's as you're writing, I'm sure you found you come across different topics that you think, well, what if someone not read this? They didn't have the answer to this question. So I end up answering every question as I go through it, to trying to make it like an encyclopedia, which is really annoying because I feel like if I go back how much I've learned and unlearned and learned back again in my bodybuilding career of 15 years, we're talking probably about 1 million words if you wrote it all down, and I've got to put that in a book, and I've got to put it in 100 pages or something to make it quite accessible. But yeah, that's something I'm looking at the moment. I'll probably do a recipe book at some point, but I don't think there's much value in a lot of the carnivore recipe books, just because the food doesn't look, jazzy. It's just a bit of meat and a few eggs, or eggs put in a certain way, cooked a certain way with a bit of cheese in it or something. So, but I do get asked a lot about some things. And I think, what the most prominent questions I get about, building muscle, losing fat, carnivore diet. So I've tried to make it from start to finish so someone can read it, go through it, create a program, create a diet plan, a few troubleshooting sort of things, an FAQ section at the end. But I look forward to putting that one out there. But honestly, I think you guys have your price for your one's 10 quid or something, which I think is absurdly good value for what it is. So I do recommend people buy that, and you do also get the audiobook version as well. So
yeah. Bottom line, we want everyone to have access to this book. I mean, I learned so much in the writing process. I can't imagine there's anybody out there who won't go away from this going, Jesus, I didn't know that. That really, but it actually makes you look at the world in a different way as well. It's not just, oh, that's an interesting fact. It's the relevance and the importance of food to humanity on multiple levels, even getting to the spiritual level, because of the way that it connects us with our right and natural place in creation, in the universe. Blew my mind.
Yeah.
Can I just see? I just noticed this that kind of amused me from Nathaniel Stunt, and to use some rhyming stuff, I think he might be a bit of a vegan. What should make anyone watching this begin to trust a word? I like that. That's cool.
It's our glasses that make us trustworthy.
Yeah, that's it. We're wise, and we've got British accents, so that makes us trustworthy. And we're being paid to spread dangerous lies by the meat industry.
Well, in contrast, you could probably put up a few studies where we've spoken about, the likelihood of getting skin cancer in people that wear suntan lotion. You could talk about the successes that have, people that have come to us and had success with their diet for health problems, body composition. I know between us, we've probably all spoken to probably at least 300-400 plus people. And that's just in consultations alone. That doesn't include, we're chatting to someone online for some reason, I think sometimes enough anecdotes do add up and they do count for something. I'm pretty qualified. I think Coach Stephen's pretty qualified. Richard, when he's here, he's pretty qualified. These guys will buy their book, read their stuff, test it out. You know?
Yeah, that's what I would say. I'd say, Nathaniel, don't believe a word we say. You know, all you can do is try it for yourself. Give it 90 days. Join the Big Fat Challenge. Do it. If it doesn't work for you, I'll give you your money back. Right? But I think it will change your life. It'll certainly cheer you up. You're miserable.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you'll notice all the people in the carnivore space, I'd say for the most part at least, we're all pretty happy-go-lucky people, quite positive, quite progressive thinkers. So you'll see that if you buy the book. You'll realize how much these guys actually care about, you know, the planet and society as a whole. It's not a slagging off match where Ben or Phil are saying, you know, all vegans are terrible people and, you know, the children should be shot or something. You know, it's practical solutions to the problems that people have, everyday health problems, everyday money problems sometimes as well. You know, people think this diet is expensive, but it's not. I think the book does cover a lot of ground. So
yeah, they're not expensive. It continues to blow me away. So this is this the Big Fat Duck Challenge? The Fat Duck being the is it Heston Blumenthal's restaurant in Oxfordshire?
Something like that. Yeah.
So, you know, you're looking at over £100 a seat really for that. Do we plan to do a paper version of the book? Yeah, I mean for sure we'll do it, but probably print on demand. It'll be out as soon as we can sort that. But it's going to be 2024 anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all the questions we actually have. I could spot, unless you guys have seen any that I've missed. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some coming through. I don't know, from my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Jane of Fools. Can we chat about coffee? This is Ben's area of expertise. Why it's toxic. I'm dairy-free carnivore. I think I should quit my one black coffee per day. I have a thyroid nodule.
It's very hard to quit. It does come from a bean, obviously, and beans are plant seeds, and plant seeds are their babies, and so there's hundreds of different chemicals in coffee. Caffeine itself is an alkaloid, like nicotine, like cocaine, you know, and it is there as a defense mechanism. It is also a nootropic kind of brain stimulant, and you know, moderate consumption of coffee is loosely linked to long-term brain health and longevity, slightly, but pays your money, it takes your choice, really. I think for me, I'm off it again. I'm going for the Bovril now instead. You know, just get a beefy brew if I want a hot cup of something in my hand. What people say is that once you can get over it, and once you get over the addiction and come out the other side, you will notice that your energy levels are better on the whole, but better throughout the day as well. There's another one. It's on Huberman Labs. It's worth looking up. And he said it does have these various benefits, but he also said don't make your first coffee within 45 minutes of waking up, which is bizarre because it's exactly the point of the day that you want your first coffee as well. But yeah, you come out the other side, you will notice steadier and improved energy levels throughout the day, rather than this kind of big buzz in the morning followed by a depression in the afternoon, which really just proves the fact that with all of these things, it doesn't give you energy. It's a credit card that allows you to borrow energy from later on in the day that you then have to pay back with interest. So, you know, try it. Try life without it, but it will take you a few weeks to adapt. And then, you know, if you feel like you were happier before. I mean, I just did 2 days. I was feeling kind of in the dumps, and I went and got a bag of ground coffee. Had it for a couple of days. I thought, well, oh, this is quite nice. But now after those 2 days, I'm thought, I don't want to be buffeted. I don't want to be knocked this way and that, you know, like a cat with a ping pong ball, which is what life on coffee is like, in my experience. But we're all different to the way that we react to different stimuli and drugs. There's no question that it is a drug. and a damn powerful one too. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'd also say that, you know, if you've got a thyroid nodule, you want to be looking at not taking in any anti-nutrients. I can't remember, Jonathan might know, if anything in coffee sort of blocks the uptake of iodine, but, you know, a lot of these anti-nutrients do. You need to get that thyroid sorted. I would stay very strict carnivore, and I would cut the dairy definitely, and maybe do an iodine protocol. They terrify you about this iodine, you know, endocrinologists, but it's all nonsense. That's what your thyroid wants. But get a good protocol where you've got all the sort of other supplements with it, and doing a sort of salt loading and then a borax thing maybe to get some of the halides out of there. But it can also be an oxalate issue, and all these things add up in the thyroid and muck people's thyroids about now. So
that's one of the issues for me, Phil, because I used to add Lugol's iodine and a splash of borax solution and a pinch of sea salt to my coffee every morning as well. So, you know, now I forget to supplement those things very easily.
Yeah. I think, you know, there's a lot of comments about dairy here and whether you should have dairy and this and that. And I would say just I don't want to really go into it massively, but have a listen to that. We got 2 videos, one silly little one, Ben and I outside in the Peak District talking to Zofia Clements. It's about 5 minutes long, maybe less, on my YouTube channel, and another one where I do on my Red Pill Buddhist podcast. It's also on the YouTube channel, talking to Zofia about dairy. Always listen to the paleomedicina perspective on dairy, because if you have anything to heal, you know, if you feel you're doing it all, you're doing all right, and you're healthy and you can take dairy, well, it's entirely up to you. You know, I would eat it all day long, every day if I could. I don't eat it at all now. So I would say have a listen to that. Really, it's a big subject. It really is. And if you're healing up, it might really well be worth not having no butter, and that means no ghee, even nothing. Makes a big difference when you're very, very sick and healing up. And then maybe you can reintroduce it in time, but listen to what Zofia has to say about that. It's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, good shout. I kind of agree with both of you on that one about the coffee. You know, you stress your body out, your body needs more to replenish itself from the stress that you've given it. I like the idea of like you're borrowing it like as a credit card, and that is completely true. For example, people that are in stressful situations, they've got depression, anxiety, they supplement sometimes with a B complex if they're, you know, a vegan or something. That seems to benefit them. But if their cortisol is always running far too high, and they seem to benefit from it, there we go. You know, it's obvious that we deplete things. So I'm not the biggest fan, and nowadays I use before gym like a pump pre-workout product. So it means it's got 3 amino acid ingredients, a bit of sodium, stuff like that. Just help with my blood flow in the gym. I feel a bit stronger with it. I don't know, but I think for me it's more of a ritual thing. So I appreciate a lot of people have coffee because it's part of the ritual, but just find another ritual. So I swapped in my caffeinated pre-workout to a non-caffeinated one, and that's now part of my ritual. It's a better, healthier substitute. So yeah, we've got one more question here from Pro Weimal Mike, and it's about what's your opinion on wide versus close grip lat pull down? Should I do both for complete back muscle development? What do you guys think? 'Cause I know you both have trained at different times.
I used to be asked this sort of thing in the gym, you know, what grip and whatever. I don't know. You know, I mean, when you get to Jonathan's level and then you're trying to sort of target individual muscles and sort of sculpt the body, but it depends what stage you're at, because, you know, as somebody, I think it was in Hard Gainer, the mag I used to write for, and somebody just once put it really nicely. You know, if you're trying to sculpt a statue, you first need the clay to sculpt it. So I would just say, you know, use whatever is best for the rotator cuffs, and you know, whether it's bench pressing or pull downs or whatever you're doing, and just don't do many exercises and do real heavy stuff to failure and build up a whole load of muscle before you decide to sculpt it by thinking whether you should, use this kind of grip or put your little finger out like this and stuff like that, which is probably very useful when, you're at Jonathan's level. And if you are, then it's a great question for Jonathan. But for me, if you're not, just lift some heavy weights and get on with it, and don't worry too much about grip. But what would you say, Jonathan?
I think you brought some really good points. Obviously, the safety element is like the first thing. What exercise, what grip will allow you to lift a good amount of weight, which allows you to feel the muscle, but eliminates or reduces the strain on your shoulder joint. That's going to be your best bet. If I'm honest, I wouldn't do a wide or a narrow one. I would do a medium one. I think for overall body development, usually, if you're talking about averages, like the average person to build the most muscle, to pick one movement, so it would be leg press, deadlift, row. I always go medium grip, medium foot stance. That's the best bet. Your body's strongest when it comes to like the middle ground. One exception to that might be a sumo deadlift where your legs are very far apart. But I'd argue that is that you're reducing the distance between yourself and the ground rather than you're actually recruiting more muscle fibers. So what allows you to lift the most amount of weight, put the most load on your muscles, is going to be where you feel strongest. If you're doing a push down this way, you're going to be pretty strong. It's the middle of the range of the movement. If you're almost back here and you're doing a tricep extension, you're going to be weak. You're limited. Your shoulder joint's in a funny position. Your elbow's severely strained. I'd go in the middle for everything. Every grip that you do, I recommend for most people to go to every medium stance sort of stuff. I'd recommend a book that Jerome and I made, which is Exercise Specifics 101. We talk about this in quite good detail. It's about 20 pages long. I think it retails at like £3, like $3.50. That's worth looking at. And we outline both of our best 20 exercises for muscular development. And what you'll see is they're nearly identical, with the exception of about 3 or 4 exercises. So between us, me and my friend Jerome, we've got like 40 years of training experience, perhaps. We found we're pretty much bang on the mark for every single exercise. We think the same things are best for people. So I'd look at that as well. Ben, do you have anything to add to that at all?
No, nothing at all. I mean, I only really do 2 forms of exercise. I run around a rugby pitch as a referee, and I've got 2 30-kilo dumbbells here that when I remember to, I just slip on my gloves and I lift them above my head. If I can do it 10 times, I have more weight, and that's it. That's literally it. It's a pull and a push, works my legs a little bit. If I do that 3 or 4 times a day, keeps me in reasonable shape. But like Anthony Chafee says, he doesn't have to work out really very often. That he will maintain his present physique with me on the whole.
30-kilo dumbbells
each.
No.
That's about that. 30 kilos in each hand. So I'm probably 80, 85 kilos.
That's 90 pounds. 30 kilos, 45 pounds.
65
each, yeah. So
Yeah, okay.
Roughly.
There's just a quick one here. Roger Timlin says, "Evening, gentlemen. Sorry, missed out on the red glasses scenario. Sorry, Roger. It's about a while ago you asked this. Are there any good places to buy them, or just pop along to Amazon as per the norm?" Look, I think that there are probably some good companies in this country now. I don't really know any of them. I'm lucky enough to know both Matt Maruka of Raw Optics and Andy Mant of what used to be Blue Blocks and is now Bond Charge, and they sent me a bunch of them. But to be honest, having had them, nothing goes wrong with them. They're optically really good. I've bought a load of cheap ones over the years. In fact, I'm just looking at a pair now where there's one lens hanging out and the other one's gone. And you buy the cheapo ones, buy cheap, buy twice, as they say. And optically, they're usually not so good. And sometimes they don't block the right frequencies if you just grab them off Amazon. I mean, you can get some there were some that were kind of okay for about 12 quid, but they do tend to fall apart. So my recommendations would be Raw Optics or Bond Charge, Blue Blocks. They're absolutely brilliant, and they know what they're doing. And you can go on the website and the different colored lenses. They'll tell you exactly what they do. I'm sure there are other companies now around, but those are just the two sort of granddaddies of them as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I've got a link in my channel description with the ones that I use. They're from Amazon, you know. What about you, Ben? Where'd you get yours?
These are Blue Blocks. It's a Nowborn charge. I've had them
fair.
for about 4 years, and they've been perfect since day one.
Yeah, nice.
I do have some cheapo ones as well that I got off Amazon, but they're in a drawer somewhere.
Yeah.
They probably
It's
work
always
as
handy
well.
to have second and third and fourth and fifth pairs. I'm guilty of that.
I've got a drawer full of them, so no.
I'm demoting you to this position.
I hardly ever
question.
wear them anymore. The only time I wear them is for like these calls where I have to have a light up. Otherwise, I'm completely
Can't see.
invisible.
Yeah.
But after this, I'll turn that off and I'll take them off. I won't wear them for the whole evening because the house is dark.
Yeah, I've got a really bright light in front of me. It is piercingly light. The only reason for that is my room is very poorly lit. I've got one light bulb that works and it's tiny. And that's basically used on my green screen behind me. So I have a light on me, which passes through me so it hits the green screen so I don't have a shadow, so I don't look all weird. But yeah, I'm not one of those people that have a giant grand, you know, bookshelf behind them and a giant office to work from. I work from my room, which is my studio. So, you know, you got to make do with the space you got. Yeah, we got a question about dairy, which is quite interesting. Do you get a lot of clients who get too skinny about dairy? I've experienced that when I excluded dairy and get insomnia and leg cramps. I'd recommend keeping it in as long as you digest it well and tolerate it fine. I get the same thing. Some people do have a high requirement for calcium, it seems. You can have dairy or you can have, you know, small tinned fish, sardines that have bones in them. There's a bit in bone broth for the calcium. That seems to be the element that you're probably missing. If you wanted to try and find it out, omit dairy, you know, just have meat and eggs and fish or something, then add in a calcium supplement, then take it away. Then that will tell you, okay, I happen to be someone that seems to have a high requirement for calcium. The body is pretty adaptive, but I think some people not quite as much. What's your guys' take on it?
Is it vitamin K that helps with calcium absorption as well?
Yeah, it helps direct it to the right places. Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know.
What about you, Phil? Have you had this before when someone's done your beef and lamb protocol?
And they get too skinny?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but what is too skinny? It's just, you know, if we eat dairy, then it is hyperpalatable, so we eat more. You know, I can make 2 burgers or whatever, and I'm fine, and I'll eat them, and I don't need any more. But if I melt cheese on them, I can eat 3 or 4 of the same size burgers. It just makes things hyperpalatable. So I do much better without it. And so many times I've seen, you know, there's a comment here, dairy shouldn't be treated as the culprit for weight gain. There are likely other things people are doing wrong in their diet that can cause weight loss stalls. That's absolutely true, but dairy is definitely one of them. And some people, you know, when they take it out, then everything comes fine. There's some people it doesn't. There's other things, obviously, but I just think there's so many issues with dairy. You know, adult animals don't consume dairy. I sound like a vegan there, you know, but I agree with them on that. I don't think it's ideal. If you can get away with it and you can eat it, fill your boots because it's absolutely delicious. And I wish I could every day. But I'm much better off without it. I have lower body fat and I don't have sinus issues. That's what it does to me. And down the line, again, listen to Sophia's videos about the growth factors and what might happen down the line and why raw milk might be or raw dairy might be even worse than pasteurized dairy. But it's a fascinating concept and people get really angry about that. But no, just open your mind and take in all the possibilities. I think just look at all of these possibilities. I don't get stuck on one dogma really. I mean, the time that I see people getting very, very skinny, and I've done it twice myself, is when they've got a huge amount of inflammation and they're on a very strict diet like that. But then the gut's leaky and you're just not absorbing. And at a certain point, I mean, I've heard Sophia say this, I've heard Natasha Campbell McBride say this, and it's happened to me twice. There is a point where the gut seems to come together and the scales just shoot up. And that's not with any extra body fat either. The muscle comes back on. I've got a blog post. If you put in Phil Escott, my healing journey from psoriatic arthritis or something, and you can see me getting really emaciated, well, really fat, and then emaciated, and then the muscle coming back on as the gut healed. And it's a really good cycle of pictures to demonstrate that. Happened between, say, 2010 and 2015. You know, the changes that happened in my body were quite amazing. But I'd say hang in there. You know, people forget what a lean person looks like. And so you look weird to people. If you drop a load of body fat, you know, when you say dropping weight, if you're eating enough meat and fat, you're not dropping muscle or bone density, which is what you need to worry about. You're dropping fat, unless you're under eating hideously, of course, but you're dropping body fat, and that's what you want to drop. I mean, then your only option past that is to go and train and put some muscle on. So I don't have any use for massive amounts of body fat like I used to have it. It's not much fun. So
yeah, it's hard work. Like I could go on a omnivorous diet and get back up to like 20 stone if I wanted to, but I'd feel like crap. There's no point. I'm more comfortable being between 12 and 15% body fat, relatively fit. I feel all right, you know. My only last point on this is like, if you feel like you're getting skinny and you're losing muscle, you're probably not eating enough protein. If you're not eating enough protein, you're probably not getting a significant enough insulin spike. Therefore, your kidneys aren't doing the job of pushing the electrolytes into the place they're meant to be. So perhaps your insulin is just running too low because your protein's too low. You could be under eating and not realizing it. So I'd probably look at that as well. So I look at the calcium side, I look at the insulin side. That's probably how I'd go about it. We've got one more question to answer tonight, guys, because I do have to go. And this one's from Matthew, which is about Dr. Ken Berry's new book, Common Sense Labs, Blood Labs Demystified. It's a great book for learning about what blood tests you may need to have to try and improve your health. Have you guys looked at that at all?
I'll pass on that one. I'm not really up on blood. It's a shame Stephen's not here as well, because he's the vampire of the group, isn't he?
yeah.
No,
well,
we just tests too much.
We just had a question on our tribe, didn't we, this evening, about which blood test to have, and I popped up a video and linked it to them of Ken Berry's which blood test to have in a video. I don't know. I'm not big on blood tests. You know, I don't bother. But if you are, then Ken Berry's the guy to listen to, I reckon. I'm sure the book's fantastic, although I haven't read it, but I have watched his video on it.
Yeah, I'd go to one of those guys.
If you are worried about anything in particular, get a consult with Stephen and he'll talk you through it.
Yeah, my first port of call would be Stephen, or it'd be Professor Bart Kay. And what they kind of say is like, don't get blood tests for the sake of having a blood test if nothing's wrong. You know, perhaps if you've got a genetic disorder and you've been on a terrible diet for a long period of time and you want a way to be accountable to know, okay, my inflammation's going down, you know, well, yeah, maybe get a blood test, but if nothing's wrong, don't try to look for a problem. I think that's part where a lot of people go wrong, and they find their cholesterol is 400 and they're like, oh no, what's going to happen? Am I going to die? And I see this question every day on Facebook forums. I'm like, I don't know how to, do I just need a template thing, copy and paste the same thing each time? It seems a bit bizarre to me, because like when you hear, oh, I follow all of Ken Berry stuff, I follow Dr. Chafe, you know, all these big names. It's like, do you actually follow them? Because you'd have heard them say 1,000 times before in every single live stream the same thing. And I personally only look at about 4 or 5 things if I have a blood test for myself, and I get that done about 2 to 3 times per year. Just things that I know I would be concerned about, things like inflammation, liver health, things which would be potentially problematic due to my body weight and muscle mass. But I don't go looking for problems, if that makes sense. But yeah, definitely get in touch with Stephen for a consult if that's something you're concerned with at all. All right. Is that about it?
If not, if you feel healthy, don't worry.
Yeah. I'll just go through these quickly because getting a lot of asks about this. So these do go over glasses. So they look like that. They do work very effectively. Sometimes I do a double up effect and actually use my red light at night. So I've actually got a red mouse mat thing now. This thing goes red. And if I'm obviously looking at a screen, I wear these. You can get daytime ones as well. They're yellow. They're not quite as effective, obviously, because they don't block out as much blue light, but they might reduce some eye strain slightly, at least make you less, what's the word, exposed to blue light. When lifting, should you go to failure? Yeah, probably, if you can do it safely. I think the limitation is a lot of exercises don't allow you to do it that are free weights, so I'd probably stick to mostly machines if at all possible, if you do not have a spotter at hand. The biggest challenge I have, the biggest challenge I have this one is most people can't recognize what failure is. Like 95% of the time. So I've had a lot of people before, like say, when I take on clients, what's your training like? And they'll write out for me and goes, oh, I do 40 sets to failure. And I say, no, you don't. 40 sets to failure, that would kill someone. So I want to get a workout done with Dr. Chafee at some point. He said he did like 30 sets for legs to failure on squats or something. And I'm like, I don't believe you, mate, honestly. I'll take you through some squats and I'll show you what a failure set is.
And he could walk the next day. So
maybe he's a mutant. Maybe he is an anomaly.
He does seem to be in certain respects, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
But for
I like him.
Your average mortal, if you did 30 sets to failure, you would not be getting up the next day. You wouldn't be sitting on the toilet. You wouldn't be doing anything.
I do about 20 sets a week right now. It's about 22 sets a week. That's it. So I'm in and out of the gym in about 30 minutes or something. I think Ben does something probably quite similar. You guys going to cheat on Christmas Day? Me? Yes, absolutely. What about you guys?
Yeah.
It depends if we play Scrabble. Then I'll cheat like crazy. So I always do, and I always win. And because I've got kids, and my missus English is not her first language, so I always end up winning. I can make up any old shit. So yeah, I'll be cheating at Scrabble. No, I won't. I'll be having a big rib roast, and if I do potatoes for the kids, roast potatoes, I might have a couple of them with some butter. But I don't think it's a big cheat. No. I mean, my cheat is brandy now and again, and that will probably be the same on Christmas Day, although I've given it up at the moment. But we'll see. But no great feasts for me on stuff like that. I don't even want it anymore. It's been so long since I had that stuff. Can't be arsed. Yeah. Oh, Christmas tree or roses. Yeah, probably not.
No, I don't touch chocolate. I'm very highly intolerant to it. It makes me really ill. But like my Christmas Day dinner, I imagine turkey or beef or both. Most of the plate, probably at least half of it. One Yorkie, one or two small roast potatoes, a few bits of like vegetation, lots of gravy.
Bit scenery.
Bit scenery, yeah, just to make it look like I'm, trying to be healthy and get my 5 a day in and stuff.
I'll tell you the one thing for me that really ties everything together with a roast dinner is cauliflower cheese, man.
Because of the cheese.
Your meat and your crispy spuds, yeah. And it's making me all hungry.
Yeah, I think on that note, we'll probably go before we upset Phil too much. He's not allowed all these foods.
No, I'm allowed them. Nothing upsets me. I mean, enjoy it. And if I really fancy it, I'll eat it myself. I just don't particularly that much anymore. So I'm not really tempted. I mean, the thing that will tempt me is to get really mashed on Christmas Day. It won't be any of the crap foods.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we talk about. It's about getting to the point where you have enough experience of what it's like on the other side that it's not worth that. Like Anthony says, I feel so great right now. Why would I want to eat bread or whatever? It's just not worth it. So like for me, I know that if I have 4 or 5 glasses of wine, it's not worth it. And the next day I remind myself it's not worth it. So I'm getting to that point. I know I'm getting boring, but I'm getting happier at the same time. So screw you.
Yeah, who knows? I might even treat myself to a massive, great psilocybin mushroom trip. That'll upset the kids over dinner. God knows what I'll be like.
We all have our dreams, Phil. Yeah.
Good on that bombshell.
On that bombshell, we'll leave it there. Thank you everyone for joining tonight. If you want to follow Phil, check him out, and also Ben out. Phil has a YouTube channel as well, which is just Phil Escott. The website to get hold of them is the Big Fat Challenge. They do produce an excellent book and a great challenge, which is like a library of information on the carnivore diet, how to get involved, loads of information, fun facts, lots of good interviews, stuff like that. To get hold of Coach Stephen, that's just Coach Stephen Thomas BSc, and that's him on YouTube. His website, I cannot remember for the life of me, but if you type it in Google, you'll find it all there. Or go to his channel, you'll also find it in his show notes of his videos. For me, you'll find me at Carnivore Muscle. I think my actual channel name is Carnivore Muscle, but my handle is at Composition Consultant. My website is compositionconsultant.com. And that's pretty much it. Take care, guys. Cheers.